Some films push the boundaries of what we as humans can endure. They're not just unsettling, they're a test of your limits. I've always been obsessed with horror, and when I was younger, I sought out the most controversial and shocking films, convinced I could handle anything. But looking back, I realized there are some movies I should have left on the shelf. Today, I'm talking about 3 films I deeply regret watching, and may this video serve as your warning. You're probably better off never ever seeing them. Coming in at number 3 is Salo, or 120 Days of Sodom, a film based on the novel by Marquis de Sade. If you've ever heard the term sadistic, you can thank de Sade for that. And this film takes the definition of sadistic to the extreme. The plot centers on 4 wealthy libertines who, during World War II, kidnap 18 teenagers and subject them to months of torture and abuse. The film is divided into 4 segments inspired by Dante's Divine Comedy: Anti-Inferno, Circle of Manias, Circle of Shit, and Circle of Blood. It's a grim commentary on political corruption and fascism, but watching it felt like a test of endurance. I was around 15 when I saw it, which was way too young, and I very much regret it deeply. One of the things I most remember from this film is a scene where the children are forced to eat, how should I say this, something that's already been eaten and digested and moved through one's body.
Like human shit.
Yeah, it's pretty sadistic. Salo is number 3 on my list because it does have some artistic merit. The director's intention seemed to be a commentary on historical degradation, and it sparked philosophical and political discussions. As much as the film is revered for its commentary on corruption and totalitarianism, for me, the message just didn't justify the trauma of watching it. Even though I am warning you not to watch this film, Salo is easier to detach from, partly because of its 70s era filmmaking. You might even laugh at some of the scenes, but you won't find anything to laugh about in the next film. The number 2 most horrific film I wish I hadn't seen is The Human Centipede 2. If you remember the hype and notoriety around the first Human Centipede, trust me, this is so much worse. The Human Centipede 2 is about a disturbed British man obsessed with the original film who decides to create his own, even larger human centipede. Rather than 3 people, this time it's 12 people sewn together mouth to...
My mouth tastes like ass.
Martin, the central character, secures an abandoned warehouse by offing its landlord, and then begins abducting his 12 victims. These include a pregnant woman and her partner, 2 young women who catch him pleasuring himself with sandpaper, and Ashlyn Yenny, the unfortunate actress who played Jenny in the original Human Centipede. Martin lures her by pretending to be a casting agent working for Quentin Tarantino. But the worst thing about this film isn't even the Human Centipede itself. Honestly, there are dozens and dozens of horrific, violent insanity, just one after the other in this unending, torturous, violent display of gore. If you go to the parental guide section of this movie on IMDb, and any of the other ones on this list, you will get a pretty good sense of what is in this film. There are many, many examples listed there, so if you are curious, then have a read of this page, and I think it just might dissuade you from watching the movie. Without getting too graphic, there is a scene involving a woman giving birth in a car while trying to escape, and let's just say it doesn't end well. To me, The Human Centipede 2 has little to no artistic merit. It's just pure exploitation, gore for the sake of shock. I honestly wonder how the screenwriter could even come up with such horrific scenarios. Like, I worry for their mental health. And yet, the next film on this list manages to surpass even this film. The most horrific film I've ever seen, and the one I regret watching the most, is A Serbian Film. The plot centers on an aging porn star drawn into making an art film, which turns out to be something much darker. A PDF file and necro-themed snuff movie. The protagonist, Miloš, tries to escape the production after realizing its darker intent, but he's caught and wakes up 3 days later, bloodied and bruised with no memory. Desperate for answers, he returns to the now abandoned set and finds only a series of tapes. Watching them, he learns that he was drugged into a state of violent arousal, reducing him to a primal, uncontrollable creature. What he sees himself do on those tapes is beyond anything you could imagine. I won't go into graphic detail again, but there is one scene involving a newborn that is forever burned into my memory. What you don't see is even worse than what is shown. Although in A Serbian Film, you'll still see plenty of in-your-face horror and depravity. What makes A Serbian Film even more disturbing is the craft behind it. It's well directed with strong performances, which only make it harder to distance yourself from the horror. Unlike campy slasher films, there is little absurdity here to shield you from the darkness. As I watched, I kept telling myself, this isn't real, it's just a movie. But then another thought came in and it said, yeah, but things like this do happen in the world. Some of them are happening right now. And that's what really disturbed me. This film, in its twisted way, reflects the darkest corners of humanity. I won't spoil the ending, even though you really shouldn't watch this film, it's your life, do what you want. But let's just say, if you thought the ending of The Mist was disturbing, multiply that by about 1,000 and you'll have a sense of how unsettling the final moments of A Serbian Film are. So why am I telling you about these movies if I'm advising you not to watch them? Maybe it's a warning for the curious, or maybe it's just therapy for me after having seen them. Either way, consider yourself warned. There are some things that once seen can never be unseen. Thanks for making it to the end of the video. If you enjoyed it, consider subscribing and have a great day and a happy Halloween.